Okay, so nice base. We're learning about three different levels of the milchama with the nefesh habamis, and how that milchama can take place. It can take place, but I won't call it a milchama, with the encounter with the nefesh habamis. It can take place as a milchama. That's when the Aveda is be'efen shel hislavshus. What's hislavshus? The hislavshus of the nefesh elokis and the nefesh habamis. That nefesh, ruach, and neshama, those three levels of neshama that are clothed in the body and responsible for conscious reality, our experience of conscious reality, our conscious life, etc., etc. That those aspects of our neshama are involved in, this is taka, war with the nefesh habamis, trying to convince the nefesh habamis that elokus is a good thing. That's called the islavshus. To encounter the nefesh habamis, try to convince the nefesh habamis. Nefesh habamis might have arguments the other way, so to speak. Whether the arguments are reasonable or not is not the issue. All right? So there's that level of Aveda. Then we said there's two different levels of Aveda that come from the Makif. Chaya shebenefesh and Yechida shebenefesh. Chaya shebenefesh is the Ratzon of the Nefesh Elokis. And when that's the last line, those are the last lines we saw yesterday. When that's revealed, so the Ratzon, I'm just reading the top line on page Lamed Dalet. Shall Ratzon the Nefesh Elokis, the Bechinas Chaya, misgaber ala Ratzon the Nefesh habamis. It overcomes the Nefesh habamis. Why? Because the Nefesh Elokis is more powerful than the Nefesh habamis. So it overcomes it. Once there's a revelation of the Ratzon of the Nefesh Elokis, so then it overcomes the Ratzon of the Nefesh habamis. There's all sorts of reasons for that. One of the reasons is actually that the true Ratzon of the Nefesh habamis is to be overcome. The Nefesh habamis doesn't really want all this nonsense. It's really created by the Eibishter to do what it's supposed to do. So it does it very religiously. Ella, again, we'll just continue from there. Shemitzad toikef haratzon the Nefesh Elokis. Because of the power of the Ratzon of the Nefesh Elokis for Elokus, misbatlin mamela Ratzonos Nefesh habamis. They're nullified, consequently, the Ratzonos the Nefesh habamis. It's not that there's so much Aveda. That's why it's all besholom. There's no Aveda. If I bring about a revelation of that state of my neshama, so then mamela, there's the Nefesh habamis is bottom. Put it slightly different. The Ratzonos of the Nefesh habamis are bottom. The desires of the Nefesh habamis. Nefesh habamis itself might stay in all its glory, but it's not able to express itself. Now we're back to Naran. That the Aveda that's a function of rational, natural reality, Shemitzad Bechinas Naran, that's a function of the levels of Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. Habirur the Nefesh habamis, the birur, the rectification of the Nefesh habamis, who al yedei Nefesh Elokis, is by virtue of the fact that the Nefesh Elokis mislaveshes the Nefesh habamis, is clothed in the Nefesh habamis, encounters the Nefesh habamis, is, so to speak, arguing with the Nefesh habamis, educating the Nefesh habamis. V'lechem esima, it's fighting with it, it's battling with it, trying to get the Nefesh habamis to realize what emes is. Mashein came by Bechinas Chaya. That's not the case of Bechinas Chaya. Why? Because we just said it all happens memela, all happens consequently. It's not a function of a battle. Once that level is revealed, then memela, consequently, the Nefesh habamis is bottled. Mashein came. That's not the case. The Bechinas Chaya, al yedei toikef haratzon the Nefesh Elokis, by virtue of the power of the Ratzon of the Nefesh Elokis, Ratzon shelamayla mitayim, tam, will which is higher than reason, a more powerful expression of the Nefesh habamis, of the Nefesh Elokis, much more powerful than the Seichel of the Nefesh Elokis. When the Seichel of the Nefesh Elokis is trying to overcome the Nefesh habamis, so it's a battle of Seichel neged Seichel. So, theoretically, someone can win an argument, right? But the basic, I always say no one ever wins an argument, right? If they're arguing, so then there's already, I've already lost half the battle. That doesn't mean I can't convince him. I can convince him. One of the mesholom is, we'll see this later, one of the mesholom is two lawyers, a prosecutor and a defender. So the defending lawyer might be able to convince the prosecutor that he's right in any particular case, but that doesn't mean the prosecutor is still not a prosecutor. That's still his ofi. You have to be a certain kind of person who goes into the prosecutor's office. Right? You're a lawyer. You have a choice. Either you can defend people or prosecute people. Okay. You have to be a certain kind of person who wants to go and try to put people in jail. That doesn't mean that some of them don't belong in jail. I get that, but you still have to be a certain kind of person. Unless you're funded by George Soros, then you're not that kind of person. You're trying to keep them out of jail. It's a rather backwards way of doing it. We were Fabrengi about this a few weeks ago, and friends in the Fabrengi said that he's a cousin. I don't know. Somebody knows. I think it's a cousin. Who's a frum guy, and he works in the district attorney's office somewhere in the Northeast. And on his yarmulke it says Kategar, which means prosecutor. Wow. Kategar. Ain't Kategar nasa sanegar, right? That the prosecutor doesn't become the defender. Right? That's why the Kohen Gadol doesn't wear gold into the Kodesh HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur. Right, because the gold will remind the Eibusher, so to speak, of the Egel HaZahav. So the prosecutor doesn't become the defendant. He's going to defend the Jewish people. He doesn't bring the prosecutor in with him. The prosecutor being the gold. So Kategar. So he had on his yarmulke Kategar instead of Jake. Okay. So when it's Naran, it's a battle. When it's Chayesh B'nefesh, so then the Nefesh B'hamis is Batal Mabela. That's what the Rebbe is about to say. He's already said it, and he's going to say it again. Al Yedei Toikef HaRatzon, the Nefesh HaLkis Ratzon Shalamayla Mitam, Misbatlin, in the fourth line, Heim HaRatzonish the Nefesh B'hamis Mabela. I don't have to do anything. If that level of me is revealed, so then Mamela, the Nefesh B'hamis, is quiet. It's not, it hasn't disappeared. It's quiet. Now that might be temporary. Aval mikol makim, so therefore it's all besholom, right? Aval mikol makim habitl shelahem, right? The bitl of the nefesh habahamis at that point, hu rak mitzad isgavus nefesh elkis. It's only mitzad of the fact that the nefesh elkis has overpowered it. Hit gavrut miloshin gvura, power, strength. It's been overpowered by the nefesh elkis. V'leishim b'teilim betzim. And it's not that the keiches of the nefesh habahamis are actually batal. It's not that they no longer exist. No, they're there. They're just dormant. Similar to what happens to the nefesh habahamis in the face of a miracle. So it's quiet, knows that it doesn't have much to say right now because miracles are happening or it's a very inspirational moment or whatever. So the nefesh habahamis will sit quietly. And then when this all passes, the nefesh habahamis says, okay, it's my turn. V'lochem. Therefore, the Rabbi says, let's talk about Chayesh B'nefesh, the revelation of Chayesh B'nefesh. That means a person reaches a certain state of inspiration where they truly experience a tremendous desire for Elokus. So what happens at that moment? They're not interested in anything else. They're not interested in any other expression. They're not interested in the Nefesh Habahamis and whatever idea it might be cooking up in its little laboratory of craziness. Okay, fine. But that's a function of the inspiration. The inspiration is a revelation of Chayesh B'nefesh. But it's not completely batal. And the Rabbi says, this isn't a true state of shalom, because the enemy is still there and he's not vanquished, he's just quiet. He's hiding. This is the third level. The true expression of the level of Poda besholom nafshi, hu al yedei gilui yechido. That's when there's a revelation of Yechidus B'nefesh, that place in the Yid that is essentially connected to the Eibishter, and in that place there is no other Metzias It's not that there's some other Metzias, some other state of reality that at this particular point is dormant. There is no other Metzias. All there is Elokus in that place. And so in that place, the Nefesh Abahamis is Batal Mavutal. There is no Nefesh Abahamis there. And as we said yesterday, relative to the Nefesh Elokis, so there's always on a certain level, an equal power of the Nefesh Abahamis. It's not exactly equal, right? But an equal power of the Nefesh Abahamis. So relative to your actions, so there's actions that you can do that express the Nefesh Elokis. There's also actions you can do that express the Nefesh Abahamis. There's emotions you can feel that express the Nefesh Elokis. There's emotions you can feel that express the Nefesh Abahamis. There's intellect you can do and express that's expressing the Nefesh Elokis. There's intellect that expresses the Nefesh Abahamis. There's Ratzon that you can do that expresses the Nefesh Elokis. The Nefesh Elokis has a Ratzon. It's a very powerful desire to be close to the Eibishter. There's also a Ratzon of the Nefesh Abahamis. There's a superconscious or subconscious reality of the Nefesh Abahamis. And so on those four levels, there's always some sort of battle. The battle on the fourth level is the one the Rabbi just described. It's not much of a battle. Once there's a revelation of Chaya Shebenefesh, so then at that point, at that point of inspiration, at that time of inspiration, so the Nefesh Abahamis is quiet. It's not fighting back. It's vanquished, but it's not vanquished for good. It's just waiting for the inspiration to pass. So then once the inspiration passes, it will rear its head and start fighting again. Okay. If that level of you and I is revealed, the essence of the soul, there's no Nefesh Abahamis there. There's no power of the Nefesh Abahamis that is somehow parallel to that level of Nefesh Elokis. That's a place of Kula Elokus. So when that level is revealed, that's the true Inyan of Shalom, the Rebbe says. And that's what the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe talked about in terms of their redemption. Inside the revelation of Yechidish of the Nefesh. So on that level of soul, there isn't anything else. It's just the Eibishter. Halacha ein ze amitis in Yinasholem. Sixth line. Page Lamed Dalet. V'amitis in the Palav Hashem Nashi Oidei Gilu Yechida. The cave in Shebechinas Yechida ein kenegda le'uma zeh. There is not opposite kenegda le'uma zeh, something that is contrary to it. Zeh le'uma zeh asa Elokim. This opposite of this, the Eibishter made. Okay, so that relates to all states of reality except Etzem. Except Yechidish B'Nefesh. Yechidish B'Nefesh is no Lumazeh. There is no other side. That's a revelation of Kula Elokus. Beveya de Beveya Leis Lahu. That's an interesting Gemara in Yevamis that is talking about shadim. Whether or not shadim make shade. No pun intended. Right? They have a shadow. So they say even a shadow of a shadow they don't have. Bavaya de bavaya leislu. Even a shadow of a shadow they don't have. In other words, they have no physical reality whatsoever. Okay, Seder. So that's used often in Chassidus to relate to Yechidish B'Nefesh not having any opposing force. Bavaya de bavaya leislu. There's not even a shadow of an opposing force to Yechidish B'Nefesh. So when that level of reality in you and I is revealed, so then that's a state of absolute shalom, because there's no enemy. It's not that the enemy is quiet or vanquished the enemy, so the enemy is simply sitting somewhere plotting his next move. There's no enemy. It's gone.
Is that a tzaddik gamor? Is that what?
A tzaddik gamor lives in that place all the time. But a Jew, any expression of Mesiras Nefesh, well, not any, but the most powerful expression of Mesiras Nefesh will be that. And that can happen to any Jew. Mesiras Nefesh can come both from intellect, which is the lowest level of Mesiras Nefesh, and that's a level of Mesiras Nefesh that a person can be talked out of pretty clearly, because just as their decision to exhibit a certain level of self-sacrifice is intellectual. It's based on the reasonableness of this at this particular time. so too they could theoretically be talked out of it. Right? It could be shown to them that it's unreasonable, because that's always the limitation of reason. Right? You might run into someone smarter than you, who can reason with you and convince you that your reasoning is untrue. Right? So that can happen relative to all sorts of states of reality. No one can reason with me to convince me that my father's not my father, because that's not my relationship with my father isn't based on reason. It's much deeper than that. Oh, okay. So no one can break that relationship based on reason. Whereas a person can break a relationship with also a person could convince me it's no longer reasonable to be a habitual Hyundai buyer. You should buy Toyota. Okay, so my deep connection to Hyundai. And I was Meiser Nefesh to drive my Hyundai. People used to make fun of me with my Hyundai. And people used to say, oh, you Hyundai driver, what's wrong with you? You should drive a Toyota. You should drive a Lexus. You're such a, what? You drive around with a big flashing sign saying you're not a serious person and you're oh. But I was Meiser Nefesh to overcome all of this. And I drove my Hyundai because I was convinced it was the right thing to do. Until you convinced me otherwise. So now I don't drive my Hyundai anymore. Okay. Fine. So that level of Mesiras, now there is a level of Mesiras Nefesh that can come from Seichel. Right? And that's actually what the whole idea of Akedas Yitzchak was. The famous Rashi where Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Kach na es binchas yichidcha asher ahavta es Yitzchak. What's Kach na? Why does Kadosh Baruch Hu say please? Because Kadosh Baruch Hu is polite. Why does Kadosh Baruch Hu say please? So Rashi explains, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, please do this last test so they'll know all of the others weren't for naught. I understand. What's going to convince them that they weren't, so don't give them the 10th test, and they'll deal with the first 9, and they'll see that he was a very holy Jew. Okay? No. Because what's unique about the Akedah, it's completely and totally l'mayla mitam v'das. Makes no matter of fact, it's counterintuitive. Jumping into the furnace, you can explain al pi tam v'das why Avram Avinu should have jumped into that furnace. His whole life's work would be for naught if he didn't jump into that furnace. They'd all say, "Oh, you're a joke." Al pi tam v'das. You have to jump into the furnace. I don't know what's going to happen after I jump into the furnace and I disappear and then. Who exactly is going to take over and say, okay, I get that part. It's not clear. But we learned via Daita Moskva why jumping into the furnace was a reasonable thing to do on a certain level. Right? Shem Havaya, Shem Elokim, what it represents. Right? So not jumping into the furnace would be a contradiction to everything Avram Avinu had been trying to explain to the world. So then, how can he not jump into the furnace? If he were sitting and talk to his friends about it, they say, you're gonna blow everything if you don't do this. I don't want to see you go, I like you. Just sign here on your insurance policy for a second, okay? I like you, but you have to jump. The Akedah is completely counterintuitive. And that's why it was the ultimate test. Even that, Chassidus explains, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Chassidus explains that the real test was not that he was willing to sacrifice Yitzchak, because if the Kadosh Baruch Hu tells you to do something, so then why is that a test to do it? I mean, the Eibishter told you, but you think that it's not the Eibishter? It was the Eibishter. He knows that wasn't the issue. Right? So the real test was to do it b'simcha. That's completely the mind of the Kaplan. That he was b'simcha. And then Yitzchak was also b'simcha, right? It says Yelchu Shneim Yachdav twice. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. But Yelchu Shneim Yachdav, they walked together. When only Avram knew, Avram was walking with the same simcha as Yitzchak. When Yitzchak found out, Yitzchak was walking with the same simcha as Avram. To do something that doesn't make any sense. Pashut no sense. So there is a Mesiras Nefesh that's al pitam v'das. Then there's a Mesiras Nefesh that comes to the level of Chaya Sheba Nefesh. A person experiences a very powerful expression and revelation of their will, their desire to be close to God, and not separated from Him. And then there's the level of Yechidah Shabbat, and that's the level of the most powerful. That's the source of the most powerful Mesiras Nefesh. Because on that level, it's not that I want to be close to the Eibishter, it's that Azoy v'nit andrish. There is no other way of reality. It's not that I want A as opposed to B. There is no B. There is nothing else other than Elokus. The way it's expressed in Azoy v'nit andrish. This is the way it is, and there isn't anything else. There's no choice. It's just this is what there is. That's the most powerful expression of Mesiras Nefesh, and that comes from Yechidah Shabbat. By Chaya Shabbat Nefesh, there is something else. There could be another Ratzon. I want this more than I want that. Why do I want this? Well, because this is good. This is God. This is the right thing to do. That's not okay. So I want this more than that. But there is a that I don't want. By Yechidah Shabbat Nefesh, no such thing. Azoid like this, but nit andrish, no other way. There is no alternative. That's Yechidah Shabbat Nefesh.
Is that like I only want you?
Similar, absolutely, coming from the same place, absolutely. L'chein ein ze amitis inyan shalom. Amitis inyan Poda besholom nafshi al yedei gilu yechidah. The kevan shebechinas yechidah ein connect lumazeh b'vayah the devayah leislu. L'chein bittul retzonis the nefesh abahamis. The nullification of the desires of the nefesh abahamis al yedei gilu yechidah through the revelation of yechidah shabbat nefesh, that place where the Jew is essentially connected to the Eibishter. It's not that through this revelation of Gilu, of this revelation of Yechidah Shabbat Nefesh, a revelation of our essential connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the Jew comes to the appreciation that he is essentially just Elokus. Nasa Bittul U'Tzenis, therefore negative desires are nullified. Ki'im Shemitzad Yechidah Ein Makam L'Chatchila L'U'Tzenis Shazayim. There is no place a priori for these negative desires. They don't exist. They're not there. There's no enemy. He just went out of existence. It's not that he's decided he doesn't want to be my enemy anymore, because I convinced him, or that his will is no longer to fight because my will has overcome his will. He's not there. There's no such thing anymore. That's the true victory over an enemy. V'zeu, and this is the ultimate expression of Poda besholom nafshi. And now, why does it say? It said Poda besholom nafshi mikrabli. We still don't understand the crop. The Rabbi in Gimel is going to start asking the questions that are obvious questions in the verse. Now we've just explained. What's the ultimate Poda besholom? The ultimate Poda besholom is Yechidah Shabbat Nefesh. And that's discussed in every Poda besholom Maimer that discusses the whole inyan of the Alter Rebbe and the Middle Rebbe getting out of jail and saying this pasuk, etc., etc. It's always the same. It's Yechidah Shabbat Nefesh. That's the ultimate Poda besholom. But there's an obvious question, and the Rebbe's dealing with that question here is completely unique and revolutionary, as we're going to see in Ois Gimel. But the Rebbe is going to ask the questions. How can there be a krav if it's Poda besholom? He just said there's no krav, there's no battle, there's no enemy. So how can there be a krav? Okay, we'll get there. But in the meantime, we now understand what is it. All we're trying to understand is the words Poda besholom nafshi. Poda besholom nafshi, the ultimate expression of Poda besholom is the revelation of Yechidah Shabbat Nefesh. So there is no enemy. It doesn't exist. And that why? Ki berabim hayu imodi. Because in the Rabbim I was. Oh, so now what's that? So Rebbe is about to explain that. Based on the Mittler Rebbe. An amazing explanation of I mean, it's not new in any way, shape, or form, because this is what the Mittler Rebbe says in Shari Tshuva. But it's still an amazing idea. Ki berabim hayu imodi. That's what it says in the pasuk, and that's the reason. Because berabim, the berabim hayu imodi, that this idea of in the Rabbim I was with, they were with me, Hu tam, that's the reason, ki, because, al Poda besholom nafshi. That's the reason I'm holding by Poda besholom nafshi, ki barabim ayu imodi. Barabim, they were with me. So what does that mean? That sounds like there's a they, and so that's not shalom. There's still an enemy. So what does this mean? Ki avoided the barabim who hayu imodi. Rabbi says numbly. Again, this is based on the Mitla Rebbe. It's not a chiddush of the Rebbe. It's an amazing chiddush b'chlal. Ki avoided the barabim hayu imodi. This avodah of in the multitudes who were with me, he Sardus v'gilu yechida. That's the revelation. That's the arousal and revelation of yechida. Now, let's come back to that. Let's just finish the paragraph. Kimavur baruch b'maimer, as is explained at great length in the Mitla Rebbe's maimer. Val yedei gilu yechida. Those words, ki barabim hayu imodi, that means there's been a gilu yechida. How that means, I don't know, but we'll see. And therefore, hapadiyah, the nefesh elokis, he from the sholem. Therefore, it's Poda besholom nafshi. Poda besholom nafshi. Why? Ki barabim hayu imodi. And what does barabim hayu imodi mean? There's a revelation of yechida shebnefesh. Therefore, it's Poda besholom. Okay, that's the end of the first two oasis, and that's the basic idea in all Poda besholom maimar. Now, love dafka they explain ki barabim hayu imodi. Usually that's explained in a slightly different way, and that we're going to see that later in the maimar. The usual explanation ki barabim hayu imodi, that even those people who were fighting me are with me. And that means that the people of Sholem were davening for David HaMelech to be victorious. Avshalom was his son; he was fighting his son, and the Anshe of Sholem were davening that David should be victorious, even though they were fighting against him. Okay, that's the simple shot in the pasuk. But what does Barabim Hayu Imadi mean here, where it's Rabbi Hayu Imadi means Gilui of Etzem and Neshama, the essence of the soul, Yechidah Shebenefesh? So the Mitla Rebbe explains that Rabim, it's really a Chiddush. Rabim is Yechidah Shebenefesh. Why? The Yechidah Shebenefesh. What does the word Yechidah mean? Only. Yechidah, the one only. So what do you mean Rabim? Rabim is men. It's the opposite of Yechidah. So how can Rabim be Yechidah? So the Rebbe says an amazing thing. It's the makif kloli. What's a makif? A makif is a state of reality that encompasses other states of reality. It's not the state revealed. There's all sorts of different states of revealed reality. The makif, there might be a makif around those that unites those to the extent that they're all an expression of that makif. What's an example? Ratzon, we've talked about. Ratzon is a makif. Ratzon is a koyach makif of the soul. What does that mean? It's not clothed in any particular part of the body. Your will is expressed in all different parts of your body equally. Intellect is only expressed there. Now, it's true, you can express intellect cliché-ny through your fingers playing a Bach concerto on the piano. Okay, Beseder, but that's called muscle memory. There's a certain aspect of intellect in your fingers. Okay, Beseder, that's true. There's intellect everywhere. But intellect, mitzad intellect, it happens in the brain. That's what happens. Where does speech happen? In the mouth. Where do you see? With your eyes. Eye, okay. So the person who never doesn't have the ability to see, so you'll see him walking along the street with a cane. He's not seeing. He's feeling his way along the street. That's not seeing his way along the street. He's using another power to make his way down the street. Okay. And it's quite astounding how good he is at it. Okay. Fine. But he's not seeing. Seeing happens here and only here. Speech happens here. Right? Can you communicate with other parts of you? Yes. You can't speak with other parts of you. There's body language, but speaking happens here. Hearing happens here. Movement happens here. Rutzin. Where does Rutzin happen? Everywhere. It's a makif. It's not clothed in any particular part of the body. It powers all of the body equally. The reason I'm moving my big toe and the reason I'm explaining this mimer are both expressions of Rutzin. I'm moving my big toe because I want to move my big toe, so I can talk about moving my big toe as an expression of Rutzin. I don't even want to move my big toe, I just want to use it as a muscle for the exercise. So in my shoe right now, as we speak, my big toe is moving up and down. It's a wonderful experience. Okay. And at the same time, I want to speak, so I'm speaking. And at the same time, I want the door to close, so I send a message to Dr. November through my super conscious abilities and have the door closed.
That's where that came from.
That's where it came from. Okay. Fine. So that's how will works. Will is a makif. So, what does that mean? That means all sorts of different activities can be encompassed in one will. And therefore you can talk about the panemius of the Ratzon, what the will really is, and the external expression of that will. Okay, so what's an example? External and panemius. So I pick up the phone to make a phone call. I don't pick up the phone to make a phone call, I don't do that anymore. I pick up the phone to order a taxi on Get. I don't make a phone call, I just press a button. So why did I pick up the phone? Because I wanted a taxi. I didn't want to pick up the phone, I wanted the taxi. Do I want the taxi? Not really, I just want to get where I'm going. If I could get there without a taxi, I'd get there. If I could go and I'm there, I would do that, but I can't, so I need a taxi. So I don't really want the taxi, I just want to get where I'm going. Okay, where am I going? I'm going to the airport. Do I want to be in the airport? No one wants to be in an airport, right? When they get to the airport, people are constantly counting down to, oh good, we got through security and through check-in and through second security and now we're at the gate and we boarded and I'm in my seat. Okay, so it's only once I'm no longer in the airport do I feel, okay, now good. No one wants to be in the airport. But I want to get on the plane and I can't get there. Planes generally come to my house. Right? So I have to go to where they are. Fine. So I go to the airport to get on the plane. Do I want to get on the plane? Well, no, not really. I want to get to where the plane's taking me. I don't want to get to New York. Do I want to be in New York? Well, I don't really want to be in New York. I want to be in the business meeting that I have in New York. If I could do this without going to New York, I would, but I can't, so I'm going to New York. So do I want the business meeting? I don't really want the business meeting. I just want to make the $1 million that I think the business meeting is going to help me make. Do I want the $1 million? No, I don't really want the $1 million. I want those things that the $1 million will allow me to do, like give a lot of tzedakah. And do I want to give tzedakah? Well, yes, I want to give tzedakah because it's a mitzvah, so there is a rutzah and a miti to give tzedakah. But even tzedakah has a purpose. Gedei l'tzedakah shemekareves is a geula, because I know that if you give tzedakah, he'll bring Mashiach. So really, I want Mashiach. So why did I pick up the phone? I want Mashiach. That's the panemius rutzon of every single thing I did. Now, there's an external of every single thing I did. Also, it's like an onion, right? There's the outer layers of it all, but interesting, every single action was encompassed by the makif of, I want Mashiach. They all lived in that makif. On a more, everyday level, well, if you happen to decide that you want to get a drink of water in the middle of class, you're going to do all sorts of things in order to make that happen. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to move your chair back. Then you're going to stand up. Then you're going to walk to the door. Then you're going to open the door because Dr. November closed it. Right? Then you're going to walk down the stairs. Then you're going to go into the dining hall. And then you're going to, depends how long you've been here, then you're going to turn left, realize the water's not over there, it's now straight ahead, and you're going to go straight ahead. And you're going to take a cup and fill up your cup, and either you'll drink the water there, or you'll bring it back to class, which involves all sorts of other. Every single one of them has their own rutzah. I wanted to move the chair, I wanted to walk to the door, but I don't want any of those things really. I just want to get a cup of water. Why do I want the cup of water? Because I want to experience the experience of drinking the water, which will either be a positive experience of the pleasure of drinking the water, or I'm thirsty and I want to do away with this negative experience of feeling thirsty, so I'm going to drink the water, which is a positive experience by virtue of the fact that it's doing away with a negative experience. So really, why am I doing all this? Because I want that experience. Or it could be that I, realize that I have to drink 1 cup of water every 47 minutes and 32 seconds. And so in the middle of class, I also have to walk home and get a cup of water because the doctor told me I have to drink a lot of water, and I made a cheshbon, and it's every 47 minutes and 32 seconds, which is why I have to come in Shabbos in 46 minutes, so I can drink a cup of water before and drink a cup of water after, and so on. Today's hard because it's Rosh Chodesh, so I can get this done. Nothing fast. Okay. So that's how Ratzon works. It's a makif. That's how a makif works. It encompasses different realities. Makif hakloli, the ultimate makif, that which encompasses all of reality, every state of being, godly, metaphysical, physical, all of it, every level of godly light, everything that is other than it itself, the essence of the Kadosh Baruch is the makif kloli. Is absolutely everything ultimately is sourced in it. There isn't any state of reality that can't ultimately trace its existence back to the essence of the Kadosh Baruch. There are all sorts of states of reality that theoretically could trace themselves back to a certain expression of godly light as opposed to another expression of godly light. Atzmus is the makif hakloli. Everything exists in the context of that makif. So that's why it's called Rabbi. All of the Rabbi exists as a result of that. Everything. It's the only thing that has absolute existence. We've talked about that. What's that called? Chuyev hametzius. Necessary existence. The only thing in all of reality that has necessary existence, that exists necessarily, is the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Everything else exists only by virtue of the fact that the Eibishter wants it to. It doesn't have to. The Eibishter wants it to. I don't have to go get a cup of water. I mean, relative to you and I, well, I have to breathe. I can't not breathe, right? You can't hold your own breath and kill yourself. It's impossible. Right? I have to breathe, right? Okay. Now, it's not exactly Chayav Metzius, because I'm not Chayav Metzius, right? Okay, say that. But that being said, within the context of my existence, so I have to breathe. And it's pretty. Now, at some point, I'm going to have to drink, and at some bigger point, I'm going to have to eat. At some point, I'll have to sleep. Okay, say that all of those things are necessary. But they're all necessary within the context of my existence, which is not necessary. It's necessary to me, but I mean, if obviously relative to the plan of the Eibishter and what the Eibishter wants from Olam Hazeh, so we're all very important. We're all of infinite importance. That being said, and if we weren't, so say this to the Eibishter to figure out how to do it without us. Right? And you can say that about every single level of reality outside of the essence of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's only there because the Eibishter wants it to be there. It's not there because it has to be there. It doesn't have to be there. And you can say that about Olam Atzilus. Right? We explain where Olam Atzilus, how it works and where it fits and what function it does in the context of the downward emanation of light that ultimately results in the physical world, etc., etc. Okay, that's all true. The Eibishter couldn't do it without that? Of course he can do it without that. He doesn't need that. Okay. So that's why Rabbi refers to that. which is Yechidush B'Nefesh. Yechidush B'Nefesh is the place in you and I that is connected to Etzem. It's the essence of the soul that is mushrash, rooted in the essence of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Ad Kidei Kach, that we say there are three different heads of the crown. Gimel Roshim the Keser, Keser being a makif, it's on top of you, it's not in you, it's on top of you. Right? So Keser is a makif in terms of Siris. Chochmah is the beginning of Koiches HaPnimim, the inner powers of the soul that are clothed in particular places in the body and expressed through the limbs in the body. And it's important to say that those limbs in the body the function that they perform doesn't come from them, it comes from the light of the neshama that's clothed in them. Eyes don't see, neshamas see. Neshamas use eyes to see, and when the neshama leaves the body, so then eyes don't see. Eyes are just a kli. Eyes don't see. They're a kli that allows for the power of sight which exists in the soul to express itself perfectly. Perfect kli, not perfectly. Perfect kli, amazing kli. I mean, it depends, Some of us have less than perfect kelim, and so we need a little help on our nose. But it does the job. Right? It somehow allows the light in and processes the light and allows the light to end up being played on the screen in our head, which is this vision that we have. And what's really, my own particular hang-up that I find so absolutely fascinating is that even though I'm seeing it in there, I experience it out there. I just don't get how that works. I just don't get it. The screen is in there. Why don't I see it in there? No, I see it out there. Can that be? Well, okay. Fish also see. I mean, it's not like horses see. I mean, they have two screens. Fish and horses have two screens. Predators tend to have one, and those that are preyed upon tend to have two. So they can see on both sides in case there's some predator lurking. Okay. Lions, I guess, see one, right? Lions, their eyes are here, right? So they must see that way, I think. That's where they look, actually. When you watch them, they're looking like that. They're looking at the thing. Yeah, for sure. Their eyes are in the front of their head. Cats. Cats are looking right at them. Dogs also look straight at the thing. The eyes are in front. Cows? Side, right? Horses, sometimes you have to put blinders on the horses when they race them, right? Because they get distracted by the horse on either side. So put a blinder so they'll run straight. They must have some vision, obviously, of what's in front of them. It must be, the screen must go around somehow. The two screens must meet somewhere. Like you and I have peripheral vision, they must have vision straight ahead. So that's Barabim. Makif Kaloli. Quite astounding. Okay. Now the Rebbe is going to start asking questions. Again, we said yesterday, I assume there will not, we'll just say right now, there is no class tomorrow. I can't imagine the Farbrengen is not going to last very late. Okay? I mean, there's a dinner at 7:45, so theoretically it's starting early, but the Farbrengen itself will start late, and it will go late. And all of the rabbis are invited to come, which means that they'll probably talk. So I must admit that I asked Rabbi if I have to talk. He said, no, you don't have to talk, but you have to sit at the front table. I said, okay, I'll sit at the front table. Are you going to be able to sit at the front table and not talk? I said, I don't know. He said, well, I'm sure people are going to say things that are going to annoy you. You'll feel like you have to respond.
I remember somebody saying, giving a story where a couple major Hasidim were sitting in for bringing something, and they wanted one guy to say something. He said, I don't feel like it. And the other one said, kind of pasuk says he doesn't feel like
Right.
it. I wonder where I heard that.
I don't know where you heard that story. Sounds apocryphal to me. No, he said I wasn't in the mood.
Oh.
So Rav Mendel looked at him and said, mood? A chassid? So this has nothing to do with moods.
Okay.
I mean, how do I know what my mood is going to be in 10 hours? I'm just making an ecrony position that I just assume sit there quietly. We'll see, you never know. You never know. I'm sure I'll say things to the person next to me.
That was a good way to deal with that.
I don't know.
Touche.
We'll see. Let's see. But I'm just saying, I assume there'll be a lot of people talking because there's going to be a lot of people up there. So even if they all just say one thing, it's going to take a while. But anyway, whatever. Hey, if you're Schreider's Kiss, I'm sitting for bread.
See, remember, you got to be careful, things comes back.
Well, I have a disadvantage in not talking on Rosh Chodesh Kislev. I'm basically the only one who remembers it as an adult. I'm so the faculty. So, that's a disadvantage. Where was I? I remember very, very well. Meaning, Simcha Star, Shmini Atzeres, I remember very well. Let's go a little further. We want to stop punkt on time because we wanted to do Rosh Chodesh davening. First of all, Rabbi Wichten's not going to daven today, so we'll probably start late because we won't be able to find someone who will daven for a while. Right, but whatever. It's one of the advantages of Lubavitch is that no one really wants to go daven. In the world, they say if you want to make a donkey move, it's hard to get a donkey to move. They're stubborn, right? They just stand there. You want to make a donkey move? Put the Amud 10 feet in front of him. He'll run to the Amud, daven from the Amud. So, in Lubavitch, we take that seriously and try not to go there. You don't want to be the donkey who runs to the Amud. But Tzarech Lahavin. The cave in Shal Yadei Gila, the Rebbe's going to ask a question, the obvious question. The cave in Shal Yadei Gilu Yechida. Since our whole story is Gilu Yechida, that's what our pasuk is about. Poda besholom nafshi. And the shalom is the barabi mayu imadi. Havayda the barabi mayu imadi, which is a revelation of Yechidah Shebenefesh, which is a revelation of the essence of the soul. We were talking before I distracted myself, that there are three different levels of Keser. Keser being a makif. There are three different levels of Keser. Gimel Roshim, the Keser it's called in Kabbalah, right? I'm quoted in Chassidus all the time. What are those? Arich, which is the which is the source of Chochmah Datzilus, Arich Anpin, the place in Keser that gives birth to Chochmah, right? Meaning the level of Makif that gives birth to a level of revealed reality. There's Atik, which is Ne'etak, transcendent, uprooted, disconnected. It's a completely transcendent level of godly reality. And then there's a level called Radlo, Reisha de lo yada v'lo is yada, the head that doesn't know and isn't known. Okay, so what's Arich? So Arich is that level of Keser that's the source of Atzilus. What's Atik? In you and I, Atik corresponds to Tainuk, pleasure, which is the source of Ratzon. Generally, why do you want something? Because it gives you pleasure. Why does it give you pleasure? I have no idea whatsoever why it gives me pleasure. It just does. Why do you like chocolate pudding? I don't know. Enjoy the experience of putting chocolate pudding in my mouth and swallowing it. I have no idea why. What, you like that more than broccoli? Yeah, I like broccoli, but I like chocolate pudding more. I eat more broccoli than chocolate pudding because broccoli is better for you and chocolate pudding is not so good for you, so I'll probably eat more broccoli, but if chocolate pudding were as good for me as broccoli, I'd eat more chocolate pudding because it's very good. It gives me a lot of pleasure. It's almost as good as chocolate ice cream, which is even better. Well, you eat a lot of that? No, I don't eat a lot of that because it's not good for you, but would I like to eat a lot? If chocolate ice cream were as good for you as the granola, so I'd have a lot of chocolate ice cream with a little granola on it every morning. I mean, why not? What a nice breakfast. Well, just terrible breakfast if you want to be healthy, but great breakfast if you like tasting things, because chocolate ice cream is pretty tasty. But, it's just not so good for you, so don't eat so much. A little bit. Right? Okay. So Tainug is the pleasure, that place in our neshama that experiences pleasure. Now, obviously, the pleasure of nefesh elokis is pleasure in elokus. But why do I get pleasure from something? I don't really know. But generally, that pleasure will give birth to the next level, which is ratzon, which is what we've been talking about. So that ratzon is the makif that's korov to conscious reality, and that's why you're constantly becoming aware of ratzon in your conscious reality. You just think about what you want all the time. Oh, all of a sudden you get a ratzon for chocolate ice cream, and you become conscious of that ratzon. Ooh, chocolate ice cream. Ooh, that'd be nice. And then you decide, no, I can't have chocolate ice cream. Why not? I'm on a diet. I don't want to eat so much sugar. It's not good for me. I'm fleishik, whatever the reason is. Or bring on the ice cream and go get chocolate ice cream. Eat it straight out of the tub. In your own house, you're allowed to do that. You have to put it in a dish straight out of the tub. Don't tell anybody. Just put it back in the freezer when you're done. Okay. Then there's a third level of keser, which is called Reish lo Yoda lo Yis Yoda, the head that doesn't know and isn't known. And I once asked the Mashpia, what doesn't it know and what isn't known about it? What does that mean? So he said something very interesting. It's the place in your neshama where your neshama doesn't know whether it's the Eibishter or a neshama. That's a neshama. What am I? Am I just a piece of elokus? Or am I something called a neshama? Well, okay, I'm both, but it's like the hinge on the door. Even deeper than that, but it's simple. A hinge on the door, so is it part of the door, is it part of the house? Both, isn't it? It's not more part of the door and less part of the house, or more part of the house and less part of the door. Okay, so that level of neshama that's completely and totally connected to the elokus, and so therefore can't be disconnected from elokus. That's a zoiv nidanderish, the place where disconnect doesn't exist. It's not where I make the decision not to disconnect. Disconnecting doesn't exist. It's impossible to disconnect. So there's such a place in our neshama. And that's called etzem neshama, yechida. So when that level is revealed, so then the person stays connected. So let's just read a couple of lines and then we'll stop. We'll pick it up, I assume, on Thursday morning. V'tzarich laving, the cave, and shal yidei gilu yechida. The since through the revelation of yechida aveded the barabim ayu imadi, ein mokim lemenagdim. There is no place in menagdim. There's no reality of menagdim. There's no opposition. Hari ein sarach az lepedir. So there's no need for redemption. What am I being redeemed from? There's no negative reality that I have to redeem myself from. And from the fact that Barabbi Mayu Imadi, who tam, that's the reason for Poda besholom nafshi. That's what we said earlier. The tam, what does it mean that something's a reason? Hu asiba, it's the cause. Shalifnei ha'inyan, that comes before that reality, shemasevi v'menu, that is the effect of it. So Barabbi Mayu Imadi had to be around before the Padiyah. Poda besholom nafshi, my soul was redeemed in peace. Why? Because I'm connected because of Yechida Shebenefesh. Now that means Yechida Shebenefesh was around before, so to speak, my soul was redeemed in peace. Because that's the reason my soul was redeemed. So the reason has to be there before the thing happens. The reason I went to the store is because I wanted ice cream. Okay, so therefore the reason to go to the store had to be there before I went to the store. That's why it's called the reason to go to the store. Then I went to the store. After I became aware of the reason. Aware of the desire, which was the reason. Okay. So the reason, Poda besholom, is a revelation of Yechida Shebenefesh, but there's no reason, there's no need for Padiyah, there's no need for redemption once there's Yechida Shebenefesh. So how does that work? Mashma, that seems to indicate Shegam la'achrein in the Barabim Hayu Imadi. After this whole notion of Barabim Hayu Imadi, which is Gilu Yechido, Suricha Nefesh Elokis Lepediyah. The Nefesh Elokis requires redemption, which doesn't make any sense. But that seems to be what the pasuk is saying, so we have to understand that. Ella shepediyah besholom, but this pediyah is besholom. And the next one, we'll see it on next time. The next question I was going to ask, what's mikra? What's the battle? What battle? It said there's a revelation of Yechidah Shebenefesh, so there's no battle. There's no opposition. Meila by Chaya Shebenefesh, so there won't be a battle, but there is opposition. Just to overcome the opposition without a battle. I just show up and the opposition goes, oh, forget it, and they run away. The Egyptian army in 73. They left their shoes and ran away. Okay. But Yechidah Shebenefesh, there's no army over there. It's nothing. So why is there a crop? We'll figure all that out. Again, no shir tomorrow. We'll see that on Thursday. Good morning, good Chodesh, good Yom Tov, all sorts of good things.